Welcome back to the Early Weigh-In Podcast. This Saturday, we got some exciting heavyweights throwing it down for us, some big guys. We got Alistar Overeem and Augusto Sakai. We got undefeated Augusto Sakai versus the veteran and Alistar Overeem there. Super excited for that one, and definitely I don't think that goes to the judges.
Yeah, I also don't think it goes to the judges, and I don't know if that's a testament to Sakai's power or Overeem's chin being gone. So one of those things are going to happen. I think Overeem has the ability to get it done pretty easily if he wanted to. Yeah. It's just about if his chin holds up.
So we've lost some fights for this fight card. It ends up being, I think, only an 8-fight card. We lost some of the meat of the card, but, as always, we'll proceed. But last week, bounced back, went 3-0. If you follow us on betmma, just to recap that, we did get big win on Polyana Viviane, almost pick 'em odds. I think even closed as an underdog there.
Close as the plus 115.
As soon as it hit the mat, man, locked up the armbar. Much better jiu-jitsu than Emily Whitmire had.
Really needed it coming off that 3-fight skid. I was really happy to see her get the win. I just wanted to stay in the UFC so we can watch her fight more.
Right, yeah. The 3-fight skid she was on, she did need a win. Cashed on Sean Brady and Aguilera under 2.5 there, and Sean Brady, man, it was strong. That one-arm guillotine was absolutely ridiculous.
Looked really good. I actually expected him to win by KO, but I was really impressed with his one-arm guillotine.
I was too. And then Neil Magny by decision. I picked that. I was on that one all day. Man, Robbie was just, I don't know if it was he's not the same Robbie anymore. I don't know if it was a short notice fight, but Neil absolutely almost embarrassed him out there, man, on the feet, on the mat, everywhere.
It was one of the first times that I've seen Robbie look timid. That really sucked to see. It kind of seems like he's a shell of himself right now. That being said, Neil Magny's never looked better. Did exactly what he needs to do. I made a comparison to him to John Jones in these past few years. His fight IQ is so high, and his length allows him to get those easy point decisions. So I was happy with him. I'm excited to see who he gets matched up with next.
And speaking of embarrassment, man, Alexander Rakic put it on Anthony Smith for the full 15 minutes. That fight wasn't even really competitive.
There was always a little bit of hope that Smith maybe could have Homer Simpsoned him and got something done in that third round, but Rakic never slowed down.
He didn't.
I was impressed with his performance, really unimpressed with Anthony Smith, though.
Yeah, very unimpressed with him, and as I said, if it was 5 rounds, I thought it might have favored Lionheart, but after watching that fight, there was just 2 more rounds of that coming for him.
Yeah, I don't know if the tides would have shifted at all. I didn't see any fatigue on Rakic's side either.
Me neither. And then I saw Anthony Smith, a comment actually, that he said he just felt like he was not near as strong, like he was the way smaller guy, and makes me think he's just, not liking it up there at light heavyweight.
Yeah, a true 185er. And we've seen that with, all of his 205 fights. Even if he is winning them, he's feeling that power pretty early on, and we see him have to endure that before he puts on any offense himself.
And we talked about his run to the title shot. I mean, Rashad Evans was an ex-middleweight himself, and Shogun is on the way out soon, So not that impressive run to the belt, and then once you actually start getting those legit light heavyweights, you're getting beat up on outside of Gus, which I think he really had to weather the storm for 4 rounds before catching that.
Right.
And then the Saturday, again, Augusto Sakai and Alistar Overeem, but we'll save that one from last. Top to bottom here, it was Brian Kelleher taking the short notice fight there. Go ahead and start with that one.
Yeah, so Brian Kelleher coming in here at 21-11, facing Kevin Natividad. He's 9-1 and is coming on a 5-fight win streak right now. He's coming from LFA. This will be his UFC debut. Definitely a tough opponent to start your debut on.
Yeah, for real, the veteran experience that Brian Kelleher has is unmatched almost in the UFC. He's been around for a super long time, and really respected him here as a -225 favorite. But, man, Kevin's dangerous. You touched on the 5-fight win streak in LFA. I think we can both agree that minor organization-wise, that's one of the best that you can come from and stuff. They're constantly putting good guys into the UFC. But he's fought Erwin Rivera in his 3rd pro fight. The guy's got some good experience for only a 10-fight resume, but he's only a little bit taller, man, but he's going to have a massive reach advantage, and if Brian doesn't stick to the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu, he could really have some trouble here on the feet.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to see Brian bounce back from his loss to Stamen. That's the upper echelon of the 135-pound division. Now that they're both fighting at flyweight or at featherweight, I'm curious to see if that weight, how each of them put on that weight. We've never seen them there And
well, Kelleher, this is his third fight at 45. So during quarantine, he has stayed at 45 for some reason. I don't know if he just liked it. He did get the knockout over Hunter Azure, which we actually talk about next. But Hunter was at 45 and carried the weight way worse than Brian did, in my opinion. It really gassed him out. So I think the veteran experience and just Brian going multiple 15-minute rounds, I don't really see the fatigue being an issue. I think it's really going to be in the boxing range that Brian Kelleher has the difficulties. He's a 10th planet brown belt, so if it hits the mat, I really think Kelleher's got the jiu-jitsu edge, got the wrestling game. But man, if he's not careful in the boxing range, Natividad has got a sneaky right hand when people are entering the pocket, is what I've really noticed, as well as a very nice right head kick while watching some of his highlights. So, maybe not enough to give the veteran some trouble, but it's going to be a good fight. I think a lot closer than these odds are expecting.
Well, I'm curious to see it. That's one I really wish I would have gotten a chance to kind of watch that film on. Just judging from it, I think Brian Kelleher will get the dub just off of experience alone. Yeah. I think he'll be able to kind of slow down the offense of Natividad. So I'd look to see him get the decision win.
Yeah,
I think that's how he's.
I'm with Kelleher with the decision win as well.
Okay. Next, we've got Cole Smith versus Hunter Azure. We were just kind of talking about. Cole Smith, for a bantamweight, extremely tall, 5'11", and he fights tall too. He's definitely got a grappling heavy attack. He'll immediately come in there and kind of zombie his way into a takedown, kind of leaving himself exposed. And then there's not also in his takedown attempts, he's kind of lazy with it. There's not a lot of setup with his strikes, and I see that kind of being a problem. A few of the fights that I watched, he had some trouble with just a clean entry. People were able to stuff it. And so I'm curious to see if he can utilize that grappling heavy attack. On the flip side, you've got Hunter Azure, who's extremely muscular, very wide in his build, and he's coming off that loss to Kelleher, like you just said. It seemed like he gassed in that fight, so I wonder if cardio is going to play into this. Cole Smith, even in his fights that he's lost, he continues an output. It's almost like I mentioned a zombie-like attack, but he just doesn't stop. He just continues and continues. So I think the biggest thing for Hunter to look for in this fight is to just stuff that takedown, and I think that he'll be able to touch him up on the feet because Cole's hands are relatively slow for 135.
Yeah, so you had touched on the size of Cole Smith. He's absolutely massive for a bantamweight, and very sloppy on the entry, almost just tries to bully his way in and use that size. He loves to bully the guys up against the fence. The last fight there with Brett Johns, it was a split decision. It really could have gone either way, but real sloppy. You touched on it. I feel like the takedowns are so sloppy, and you're fighting Hunter Azure, who's a 4-time state champion in Montana, went on to be a college wrestler. I mean, Hunter Azure's got some top-notch wrestling. I don't want to compare him to Khabib by no means. It's not on that level, but he brings such a wrestling-heavy threat to the fight that his overhand right it's there, and he's landed it quite a bit on some people. I like him, to land it on Cole Smith, just because I don't think Cole Smith is that technical of a fighter. I think it's still probably going to be a decision win here for Hunter Azure, but I think it's because the wrestling just takes over late. I think he's got the cardio edge. He's back down to 35, which is his natural weight class. I think he'll be able to stay outside on the edge, land his calf kick that he likes to land. And what I noticed as well in the tape is he's super good at catching people's kicks. So if Cole Smith tries to throw a kick here, I really like Hunter Azure to catch it and convert it to a takedown. Kind of make it boring, but just use the wrestling to win, especially late in the fight.
One of those fights that I watched Hunter Azure is against Brad Katona, and I think that's going to give us a pretty good look at how this fight's going to play out. Brad Katona, tried for the takedown over and over and over again, and just wasn't successful with keeping Hunter down. And I see the same thing with Cole Smith. It's going to be the same attack. It's just, is Cole Smith big enough to hold him to the ground? And that's something I'm curious about. I'm not totally confident, just because Hunter has, in my opinion, in that Kelleher fight, shown that he gives up in those later rounds. It seemed like he started slowing down significantly, where Cole Smith, when he fought Brett Johns, all 3 rounds, every single minute he was shooting for a takedown, even if he wasn't getting it. Right. So it's if Hunter can stay on his feet, I give it to him pretty easily. It's just Cole's really, really big. Yeah. So I'm curious if he can get the takedown.
I think I'm going to lean with Hunter Azure. I think the cardio back at 35 might just be a little better. The more technical wrestler, I think if it needed to, could make the fight boring and lean on his veteran wrestling experience.
I think I'm with you. This isn't a fight that I bet on by any means.
Absolutely
it's
not.
A tough one to call, and I don't like the value on either guy. Plus 175 for Cole Smith doesn't really justify him with how sloppy he is on the feet. So if Hunter can keep from getting that takedown, or keep him from getting that takedown, I think that he'll point him to a decision win.
Yeah.
Next, we got some heavyweights. Some that I'm extremely excited about. Alexander Romanov, who's 11-0, versus Marcos Rogerio de Lima. He is 17-7-1, and Romanov is 11-0. He's a huge heavyweight. Really pushes that heavyweight limit, and it's just solid, man. I mean, from traps to width, he is just a ginormous man, and I'm going to look for him to just kind of impose his will on De Lima. Whenever I watched his fight tapes, it was like whenever he'd get close, he'd be able to body lock somebody and just straight fuck you strength, pick him up and slam him down. And it's really impressive. He's just a brute when he's in there. I don't know if he's that technical, but he's got some submission wins where he just presses down on somebody's neck. It's not technical at all. He's just a big dude. And then De Lima, a former 205er, so he's coming up. I mean, he's fought at heavyweight a few times and has looked decent at heavyweight, but he's still going to be the significantly smaller guy in the octagon. He's been subbed 4 times. Now, I'm not saying that Alexander Romanov is a submission artist, but he's big enough. If he gets him to the ground, he could put De Lima in some trouble. Other than that, look for De Lima to kind of utilize his leg kicks against Romanov. Maybe try and slow that pace down and avoid that body lock from Romanov.
So you touched on the leg kicks that Rogerio de Lima has there. I think striking wise, Rogerio de Lima is the far superior striker of the two. And Alexander Romanov, he's basically a one-round fighter. As it progresses on, he tends to get touched up a little bit, but just an absolute, man of a human being, can absolutely walk through every punch to just ragdoll you as soon as he gets your hands on you. I compare him to a damn grizzly bear, man. Seriously, he just mauls people. When he gets you on the mat, it is almost like Khabib. It is ground and pound from hell. It's not position-wise. It is, I don't care what position I have. I'm raining down strikes on you, and I love to watch that. Rogerio de Lima, smaller guy coming up from 205, but he's been in there with Nikita Krylov and OSP and Stefan Struve, so been in there with way better people, but man, almost 35 years old, you're having to come up in a weight class, taking on an undefeated guy with a ton of hype around him. Everything here leans for me to lean toward Romanov here, and at a minus 120, I think there's a ton of value on those odds, and a ton of value that this fight does not see the judges. Lima is going to get mauled on the ground. I think if Romanov can close this distance and get his hands on him, first round, second round, whatever round it hits the mat, it's going to be into that round. I think the ground and pound is going to be too vicious for the 35-year-old to withstand.
I totally agree. Romanov's a tank, and I really do. I look for him to just come in there and out-muscle him. Really just show that the size really will play a factor in this fight. I think it's an easy pick for Romanov. Minus 120, I'll put a significant
good little value
bet on
right
that.
there, absolutely. And man, our next one at flyweight, no idea how this is not your co-main event, and it's buried so far down here. It's Viviane Araujo, who's 8-2, fighting Montana De La Rosa, who's 11-5. Viviane's currently the number 15 flyweight, and Montana's the number 12. So some ranked girls here with trying to move up in the division, and a good fight for Araujo as far as a girl a couple spots ahead of her, but a completely winnable fight in my opinion. Araujo is currently sitting at a pretty decent favorite of a minus 170. The plus 150 comeback on Montana De La Rosa. What I really think about De La Rosa, she's fought the better girl. She's been in tough. She has the better cardio. But man, outside of that, everything leans toward Viviane in this fight, in my opinion. She looks in a much, much better shape. I know she's fought multiple girls bigger than her. she mixes up the wrestling, the striking so well. And when you have a debut like Viviane Araujo had, you have so much hype to live up to. That is a top 5 women's knockout in history, man. She mixed up the wrestling the first round or two so beautifully, and then landed like 6 right hands in a row before she just dropped this girl. I mean, you don't really see that in female fights.
Right.
Little about that, she took the fight up at 35 when she's a 25er, only weighed in at like 130 pounds. And then you get to Jessica Ai, who misses weight by like 6 fucking pounds, you know? So, granted, it's a loss, but, I mean, Jessica Ai quit cutting weight, and Viviane's a big girl for 25 and stuff already. So, I know the weight cut is not easy for her. I like her to win this, man. She is fun to watch on the feet.
Speaking on that Ai fight, I watched it today. She might have got that. Yeah. She might have gotten that fight. They gifted Jessica Ai that win, so that's... we'll take that into consideration. Something that I noticed about Araujo's fight style is her movement. Extremely high speed, great movement, and she utilizes her feints really, really well. Right. I compare her footwork almost to TJ Dillashaw, and I know that's that's
a high comparison.
A high comparison for sure. But for a woman, I really haven't seen any girl move like that. She's shifting her feet whenever she's standing up. She's a decorated grappler on the ground, so I don't think that she's going to be too uncomfortable if she does get put on her back. Where Montana, I expect her to go with a really grappling heavy attack, another one where she's just going to shoot for relentless takedowns, because I think she's going to get pieced up relatively quickly whenever she steps in there with Araujo. You also talked about Montana being in there with that upper echelon of competition. It seems like every single time that she takes a step up, she loses.
Right.
Her losses come into KGB Lee, Nico Montano, Cynthia Cavillo, and Mackenzie Dern. Those are the good, those are the higher level of competition in her division. And it seems like her biggest wins are from Nadia Kasim and Rachel Ostovich. I don't put too much on that. Both of those girls are good, but they're not great. Right. I think that she really does fall somewhere in the middle between KGB Lee and Rachel Ostovich. She's just not that upper echelon where Araujo really has potential. Potential for it to be a champion or at least compete up in those top 3 ranked girls. I think
you're right on it with Montana's game plan. I think it's going to be super grappling heavy. Try to exhaust Araujo. She does carry quite a bit of muscle. She got a very nice body for a female there as far as how much muscle she carries. One thing I didn't touch on, so her debut, not only did she knock the girl out like that, who was bigger than her, but she's the plus 230 dog when she does that. Viviane, you just can't count her out. She's mean when she's in the octagon. Her footwork, her feints, her striking is worlds above Montana De La Rosa. And if Montana De La Rosa doesn't just take her down and sit in her guard and make this boring, I think I'm with you when she gets pieced up on the feet. I don't know if she gets a finish. We see Montana really have some smart fight IQ at times and get this fight to the judges a lot. So I think it does go to the judges, but I got a unanimous decision win for Viviane here.
The one thing that kind of bothers me, now I talked about her being a decorated grappler, and she is somewhat comfortable off her back. I watched her fight Alexis Davis, and Alexis Davis was actually able to implement a game plan where she took her down and laid on her for an entire round. It was that second round. And I think that Montana, she's got a better grappling game than Alexis Davis. Now Alexis Davis got pieced up before she was able to implement her game plan at all. That being said, I've seen Araujo controlled on the ground for an entire round by somebody who I think is an inferior grappler to Montana De La Rosa. So that does worry me a little bit. This is another one where I just don't see the odds justifying betting on either girl. What about you?
Money's going to stay away from this one. So as I peeked down here, I did leave something off. So you had made comparisons for Viviane to TJ. I have right here that I made comparisons to Amanda Nunes with her. She's very good with her footwork. She throws a very good 1-2 with the right hand. But there's something about just... She stays at the perfect range. She knows how to just sting the girl with the punches. They're right, just perfectly on the edge. She doesn't overextend herself. Watching some of her fights, and especially the Alexis Davis, man, she looks good on the feet. And I gotta lean with her on Saturday.
Now, do you expect her to get it done by decision?
Yeah, unanimous decision.
Probably I think so as
2
well.
2 to 3 rounds.
Okay.
Because she could get laid on for one of those.
Right. And that being said, if she can stuff it that first round, I think that from what I've seen, she's improved dramatically every single fight that I've seen her.
Yeah.
So I expect her to look a whole lot better defending these takedowns. And if she stuffs the first one from Montana, I could see it being the rest of the fight where she'll be able to stay off her back.
Yeah.
All right. So our next one is a middleweight bout between Bartosz Fabinski, who is 15-3, versus Andre Muniz, who is 19-4. Fabinski, he is a grappler. Just flat out, that's all he has is a grappling heavy attack. Right now, he's 3-1 in the UFC. When he tries to utilize his grappling, he has just a problem with trying to set up the double leg. He'll go in there with his neck fully extended, and in the fights that I've watched him, he's gotten threatened with that every single time he shoots for the takedown. I mean, it's a problem. Now, he's been caught in it a time or two in his career. So I expect Muniz to actually get a guillotine in this fight.
Yeah.
He's a high-level grappler, and his only loss in the last 7 years is to an undefeated Russian. I look for Muniz to kind of lock up a clean submission early. I think it's going to be a guillotine. I kind of compared Fabinski to a great value Randy Couture. I think that, he's obviously grappling heavy and he's really good at laying on you, but even when they're on the ground, he struggles to implement any type of offense whenever he gets you there. So what do you think?
So exactly what you meant. I mean, grappling heavy attack, but a very sloppy entrance. Worse than Cole Smith.
Yeah, I agree.
Neck out, and just with a grappling heavy attack, man, you're going to run into guys like Andre Muniz where that game plan is just not going to work. You're talking about a legit, jiu-jitsu practitioner and stuff, a legit grappler who's going to threaten you with takedowns if you come in sloppy like that. Now, one thing Fabinski does have going for him, trains with Jan Blachowicz and stuff. So, he is Polish here, trains out of a good camp, and he's actually the one who just beat Darren Stewart, the dentist, on Cage Warriors. So whenever UFC London fell apart and stuff, he took the fight against Darren Stewart. I mean, absolutely just tried to wrestle him for the whole 15 minutes. That's all there. Maybe it could have been 25 minutes, but it was just a super boring, grappling heavy fight. And it's not a guy that in Andre Muniz that you want to do that to.
Right.
You had touched on, the only loss being to, I think, was Demiris Magulov and stuff in a long time. He was a Contender Series veteran, Muniz is, and, man, he was the plus 195 dog to a guy with 5 fights. And at the time, Muniz was seriously 16-4 or something like that. And you're giving him at almost 2-1 odds against a guy that seriously has 5 fights on his record.
Right.
And Muniz goes out there and submits him in under 2 minutes. I mean, it's good, smart, fight IQ. If Bartosz tries to initiate the grappling, I think it's a bad decision, but you can't just change somebody, after that's the way they've been fighting for so long, and people are going to go back to habits. And even though Andre is the plus 125 dog here, I think this is the best underdog value on the whole card, in my opinion, right here in Andre Muniz. The better grappler, just straight up the better grappler, and you got a guy who's going to initiate the grappling the whole fight. I like Muniz to catch a submission sometime over the 15 minutes.
Jim Miller, his last fight was against... just watched him.
Yeah. Vince Pichel.
Yeah. I think it'll be a very similar fight to that. If Fabinski has his way, it'll be very similar to Vince Pichel's ability to, fiend off the submission threats from the bottom of Muniz, and just kind of implement that wrestling top-heavy game. Maybe not get as much offense off, like I said, but I do think that he has the ability to kind of hold Muniz there. It's just I've seen Muniz actually pull guard and try and get submissions in fights. It's it's a grappler it's a wrestler versus jiu-jitsu. Is he gonna get the sub? I'm just not sure. I'm with you. I think that it's a great dog bet. Although Fabinski, he's good.
Yeah,
he's good. As far as on the ground, he's good. He's very sloppy on his feet, though.
Who are you going to lean with in that one?
I think I'm with you. I'm not necessarily like super high on Muniz, but I do think that the odds there's value on Muniz.
Yeah, for sure. Man, the next fight is another great jiu-jitsu practitioner and some very good young prospects, both only 25 years old. We have Thiago Moises, who's 13-4, fighting Jalin Turner, who's 9-5. Currently, Moises is a -170 to Jalin Turner's comeback of +150. Another dog. Just start off the bat by saying another dog that's not a bad pick. He's coming in there just with a massive size advantage, and for primarily a striker, you like to think that he's done nothing but he's used his range and stuff his whole life. He typically does fight at lightweight. He has taken the fight with Luque and stuff at 170, dabbled up there a little bit, but at lightweight he's a massive size advantage. And you better go out here and just shoot a double leg and put him on his back, because if you don't, he's going to make it a very, very dangerous fight. Moises is coming off his win over Michael Johnson, where the first round, Michael Johnson looked like God. I bet the live odds going into that second round for Moises to pull that out, I bet the dog odds were absolutely ridiculous. Where commentators, everybody talking about how good Michael Johnson looked. It was the best we've seen him in a while, and the moment the bell rung for the second round, Moises shot a takedown and picked up the ankle lock. Almost as soon as it hit the mat, I just remember being super upset about that fight, because Michael Johnson was right in front of his corner, never received any kind of instructions or anything. That being said, man, he's not good on the feet, in my opinion, and he's going to be at a serious disadvantage to Jalin on the feet. And he doesn't really have the power like Luque does to go out there and shut Jalen's lights off, which is what we've seen in Jalen's losses. He does have some iffy losses there, but Moises has got to get this to the mat and try to use his jiu-jitsu, and he's at a serious size disadvantage. I feel like Jalen's size is only going to help him defend the takedowns and stuff. And Matt Frivola, that's a damn good wrestler, and Thiago Moises being a jiu-jitsu practitioner, I don't want to compare him to Damian Maia and say you got to pull guard in order to get the takedown, or pull half guard or something. But you're gonna have to go out here and shoot double legs to take Jalin Turner down, and you don't see that from jiu-jitsu guys too much.
Right. You touched on it. Their bodies couldn't be more different.
Right.
You've got a tall, skinny guy, 6'3", and at 155. I always, he's shown that he makes that weight cut and he does it relatively well. But just like James Vick, it's another guy where it seems like those taller fighters who are cutting down to really low weights, their chins are questionable. Right. And then Jalin Turner, the debut against Luque, that's a tough one. That's like maybe the toughest debut you could have. Moises, on the other hand, 5'9" and extremely thick. Really, really thick. It reminds me of the cheater that holds on to too many submissions.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Rousimar
Polaris, yes. Built similarly to him.
Just that jiu-jitsu body, man.
Yeah, it's like if he can get a hold of one of Jalin Turner's limbs, he's going to be able to overpower him. He got that ankle lock on Michael Johnson, and I could see something very similar happening in this fight. It's about if Jalin Turner can utilize that range and keep him at bay. I just don't know if he can do it for 3 rounds, because I really do think immediately once this hits the mat, Jalen's going to be in some trouble over and over and over again.
So for me, man, I actually think I am going to lean with the dog here in Jalin Turner at a +150. It's a super, super close fight. Almost a pick'em in my opinion. It's a real striker versus grappler, and you should lean toward the grappler. But man, I think Jalin Turner's going to get it done on Saturday. I just got a feeling it's going to be too much on the feet.
I think that there's value there. I'm personally going to stay away from it just because of Turner's silly losses on his record. He's got a couple of really questionable ones where that weren't too far away. I think his 4 out of his 5 losses are within the last few years. They're against 4-4 fighters. It just very questionable. So I'd like to see him prove himself a little bit more in the UFC before I ever take him bet-wise.
Yeah.
I do think that he has the tools to beat Moises. It's just if he can keep him at bay.
Yeah.
For our next fight, we move on to welterweight. It's Michel Perreira who's 23-11, versus Zelim Imadaev, who's 8-2. So Michel, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. One of those losses coming to to Diego Sanchez. That one sucked. I bet big on Perreira coming into that one. Sanchez was able to weather the storm. Mm-hmm. I hope that Perreira has learned from his past few fights and doesn't do as much crazy shit leading up to it, and kind of drain that energy bar of his. I mean, every single time he comes into the octagon, he's doing flips, cartwheels,
dancing on the way in.
Just everything you could imagine. And I do think that it takes a toll on him, and especially when he starts taking these bigger fights in his career, he's going to have to cut all the shit out and utilize his advantages. That being said, he's extremely fast. He has great timing with his right hand. Whenever he kind of has a lead leg heavy attack, and people will try and chop at his lead leg, he is extremely good at timing up a straight right whenever somebody throws an inside leg kick. That's actually what we saw whenever he fought Danny Roberts. Was Danny Roberts a couple of times tried to do that inside leg kick straight right, and it rocked him. That being said, Zelim, he is on a 2-fight losing streak. One of those losses coming to Danny Roberts. I thought Imadaev was going to look a whole lot bigger in there. He's not as big or as strong as I expected him to be, and I think whenever we see him and Michel face off, that we're going to see a significant size advantage. Even though listing-wise they're 6'1" and 6 foot, so they shouldn't be too much different. But I think Perreira wears that weight a whole lot better, and I think whenever we see him at weigh-ins, we'll actually see that. Imadaev is kind of skinny. I saw him in the clinch, and I know that he does have that kind of pressure fighter, and like any Russian fighter does, just kind of that pressure heavy attack. He tries to grind on you and everything. And I was a little unimpressed with his ability to kind of implement that Russian style of wrestling, like we see with Habib or Chimaev. So I don't know if he's going to be strong enough to get Perreira down. It's if Perreira can keep it standing and doesn't gas out, I think it'll be a somewhat easy win for him.
So, man, at a plus or minus 115, I think Michel Perreira is a super, super good bet. I think the size difference is far bigger than what they give us on paper. I think once we do see them face off, I think Perreira's going to look like a far, far bigger fighter. And I know MMA math doesn't add up, man, but Perreira dusted Danny Roberts, and I mean, Zelim didn't get beat by Danny Roberts by decision, split decision, unanimous. He got finished by Danny Roberts, and that shows you. I feel like these guys are at two different levels on the feet in the striking department, and if we don't see Michel come out here and do his dancing, do his shenanigans and shit, and blow his wad in the first round, I like him to get the finish here. I really do. You touched on the Diego loss being bad. Man, the Tristan Connolly one was even worse, in my opinion. You're at like a minus 450, 500 favorite. You were literally spoon-fed an opponent you were supposed to knock out, and you blew your wad and just get laid on for 15 minutes after you gas. I mean, Michel Perreira's got a lot riding on this fight, as they both do. You touched on their 2-fight losing streak. Both guys need a win here bad, and Michel's got the hype, the charisma, that I see maybe a loss doesn't get him cut. But man, Zelim here, a loss might get him off the roster. So I like both of these guys really to have their back up against the wall and to come put on a really fun fight for us. The later it goes, I have to lean towards Zelim just from what I've seen so far. But personally, man, I don't think this one sees the third round. I think we get a finish in 1 or 2 on the behalf of Michel Perreira.
So I like what you said. I think Michel, you're right. If he loses this one, he's still in the UFC. I think we'll see him fight a couple more times. Where Imadaev, if you have that Russian style attack, you better be winning. Every single round, similar to Habib or Chimaev. It's important for you to completely dominate out there if you're going to have a somewhat non-exciting fight at all. I do think Michel's going to get it done relatively easy, and at a minus 115, I think that's something everybody should jump on.
Yeah. Man, our co-main event of the night. Can't get too hyped for this one, but co-main's a co-main. We got Sijara Eubanks, who's 6-4, fighting Karol Rosa, who's 13-3. Sijara Eubanks, the small underdog at a plus 110 with Karol at a minus 130 there. Sijara Eubanks, man, a bit inexperienced when it comes to the record, but man, every girl on that resume is in the UFC or is top level girls. You got 2 losses to Aspen Ladd. You got a loss to Caitlin Chukagian. You've beaten Roxanne twice. I mean, that right there that's 5 fights. That's half your record, and you're talking about Aspen Ladd and Chukagian, and Roxanne, who, in my opinion, are top 5 girls in their divisions and stuff. Roxy maybe getting on up there in age and stuff, the body taking a toll on her, but just the resume's filled with girls that Karol Rosa has not fought.
Another one, Perreira.
Yeah,
that's another
Correa,
one.
yeah.
I mean, it's one of her losses, but still, yeah, absolutely. It's that experience. It's much more telling than the 5-4 record would make you think.
So we've had to see her move up to 135 because she's had nothing but weight issues. We saw her have a ton of success on The Ultimate Fighter, get to Nico Montano, and then have to be pulled out there because of the weight issues and stuff. So seen her have constant weight issues, backed at 35, and she just got her first win, I do believe. Karol Rosa, on the other hand, I mean, on the feet, Karol Rosa, I think, is gonna really touch up Sijara Eubanks. Sijara really needs to use her just brute strength advantage that she has over Karol and try to get this to the mat. Not saying that she's better on the mat, but she's gonna be stronger than Karol Rosa. What I like about Karol Rosa, man, I have Justin Gaethje written down right here on my notes, man. That girl chops legs like nobody else. She doesn't throw the calf kick as well as Justin Gaethje. I think while watching her highlights, we said she throws that inside leg kick just beautifully. It's quick. She doesn't have to overextend. She just throws it out there. It pops girls. It takes them off balance, and I think we're going to see her leg kicks play a huge role with Sijara, who's real just powerful, heavy on her strikes. I think we'll see her come out there, heavy on her boxing stance, and I think we'll see Karol land a couple good leg kicks before she gets the unanimous decision win.
I'm glad you brought it up because if you didn't, I was great at starting and ending her combinations with leg kicks. I mean, and heavy leg kicks for a woman too. Right. Debilitating leg kicks. You talked about Sijara maybe implementing her strength advantage over her. I'm not too sure. Karol Rosa coming down from 145 and her last fight being at 140 catchweight, and then Eubanks coming up from 125. I haven't seen them face off, but we might see a significant size advantage in Rosa. That being said, Eubanks, I don't really see too many paths to victory for her. Yeah. I think that she'll get touched up on the feet. I think that Rosa has the cardio to go all 3 rounds with her. And then also Rosa's coming off of a 4-fight win streak, so she's got the momentum coming into this fight as well. At a minus 130 price tag, I like this. Now, I'm not necessarily in love with betting on a girl fight, but I do think that this is a pretty good value for somebody who I think is a significantly better fighter. Yeah,
she is the far more polished striker on the feet. And she is 2-0 in the UFC. She has a massive cardio advantage in this set. Sijara Eubanks, in my opinion, has 1 round to get this done, and it's by putting her on her back and some ground and pound, or by just a big overhand that Karol doesn't just see coming her way. But I think Karol's so much more technical on the feet and even more technical on the ground. The 130 price tag is not a bad one. It might be hard to pass up. I haven't played it yet. But that's something I might have to keep the eye on later in the week.
Yeah, especially if it moves any closer to a pick'em, I'll definitely jump on that. But if it stays at minus 130, I'd like to see them at the weigh-in. If Rosa is bigger than Eubanks, like I suspect, then I'll definitely play it. I think this one's a relatively easy pick for Karol Rosa.
Don't want to spend too much more time on it, anything. Not that much of an impressive co-main event, but you lean toward Karol to get that one done.
I do. Good. Super sad that we are not going to see Minifield versus Vince St. Preux for a second time. Yeah. That sucks, because that's one that I'm really excited about.
We're a little split on that one.
Yeah, that's one that me and him don't agree on, and we would really like to get that one solved. So for our main event, we've got 2 heavyweights, Alistar Overeem versus Augusto Sakai. Augusto 15-1. His only loss coming in Bellator to Czech Congo, who I actually think is a relatively good, it's a great value version of Alistar Overeem. He's got a very similar build, similar styles. I mean, he's definitely not as polished of a striker as Overeem is, but it is saying something that's Sakai's singular loss. He should have 2 losses on his record. When he fought Blagoy Ivanov, he got lucky with a fence grab that won him that fight. It changed the entire outcourse of the fight, but he was getting...
It won him the 3rd round. I mean, Blagoy was taking him down, delaying him this last couple minutes.
100%. It was, he's saved by that fence grab. So I'm not necessarily too high on Augusto. Now, I've seen a lot of people in this leading up to this week picking him as the underdog pick over and over again, and I understand why. It's because Alistar Overeem's chin is in question.
Right.
Every single fight, his chin is in question. Against his last win over Walt Harris, got fucked up that first round. He was lucky to make it out of that. And then just Walt Harris blew his load trying to finish him and just couldn't get it done. And then same thing, we can see Alistar have a perfect fight. We saw it against Rosenstrike, where it was just a perfect. That's exactly what you'd like for him to do, exactly what he needs to do. And then one slip up and his chin gets tested and he gets knocked out. And that really is the story of Alistar Overeem's career, especially at this point, is can his chin hold up? And that's the only question, because realistically, I don't know if there's a heavyweight out there with better striking than him.
Most decorated striker, period, in UFC history, regardless of weight classes. But that UFC belt has eluded him due to that chin letting him down.
100%. I don't know. I'm trying to think of people who maybe Augusto Sakai is a good comparison to. Maybe like he doesn't have the pedigree of Fabricio on the ground, but size wise, it's very similar to that. And Alistar touched up Fabricio. I look for Alistar. I hate saying this. I look for Alistar to get the win. I'm not going to bet money on him. It's a terrible bet in my opinion. But I will say that Alistar's the better fighter. I look for him to get this done, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some type of kick, some like up kick, maybe to the body. I wrote down that Sakai kind of has a soft body, and maybe he can't help that. It's just his build, but still, he definitely does not carry weight like Overeem carries weight.
Yeah, so the fence grab and the Blagoy, not the only time we've seen Augusto cheat, man. His Contender Series fight, I mean, he was cold multiple times about grabbing over top of the cage and stuff, man. He's just a dirty fighter, but, man, I went back and watched this Contender Series fight this week. I've never seen anybody spoon-fed an opponent like that in my life. Augusto Sakai was 52 pounds heavier than the guy he was fighting on the Contender Series. The guy barely touched 215, and Augusto weighed in at 265. And Augusto, I mean, he's got a chin, man, because he took some good shots. He was at such a speed disadvantage on the feet that the guy was able to come over top with the overhand right multiple times. And Augusto was just a bigger guy that was able to take it. And one thing I have noted here is, I know we saw it in the Stipe fight, Alistar's right hand is sneaky, man. It is very, you put him on his back foot and he can fire it off very, very quickly. And I saw Augusto get caught with a couple good right hands, but I don't know if Alistar has the power to put him away with his hands like Sakai definitely has the power to just mumble forward and put Alistar away. It's sloppy striking, but it's effective because, I mean, he reminds me of like freaking Alexander Romanov, man. He's just like a big-ass grizzly baron, bro, that can just get in there. His Tibura fight just gets in the clinch and mauls him, man, and just starts get him in the clinch and landing just multiple shots to the side of the head, man, and crumbles him. I mean, he's a huge heavyweight, but when it comes to the striking, he is so far outclassed on the feet. It's insane, and these heavyweights, it's super, super dangerous. I don't know if Alistar finishes them, but man, these guys are big. And what I like so much about Alistar right now is his ability to like learn and evolve with the game. You see him get beat by Curtis Blades, and he's in fucking Team Elevation training with Curtis Blades for his next fight. Beats Walt Harris, but like you said, was getting starched that first round. Literally picked Walt Harris up and was like, we're training together. Like, Alistar, even at the age he's at, he's so willing to evolve with the game, and I think you've seen that. I think, a lot of guys at that age and have been in the UFC for that long, they're not still the number 6 in the world in their weight class, you know. And I really do think that skills, the IQ, just the maturity that Alistar has been able to keep him at the top of the division for so long. And you know, we've seen guys with super knockout power like Mark Hunt and you know, others where Alistar was able to devastate him with some of his tools and stuff that he has. And I like some of the tools up the middle in this one. I like some of the kicks, the knees up the middle. I like him to really work Augusto's body. I have that noted here as well. It's a soft body, man, for the heavyweights. And Sakai has to land one punch, while Alistar has to be perfect for 25 minutes, in my opinion. So my money is completely staying away from this fight. But I think Alistar's going to get it done on Saturday, man.
At least he should get it done,
yeah.
Right? He should get it done. Now, I think that you can really draw comparisons to that Walt Harris fight. I think Sakai is going to come out strong. At least, in my opinion, this would be his best game plan, is to come out, try and pressure Alistar early, get his back up against the cage, and just hope to land that big shot, which is all that it'll take.
Right.
Now, at the same time, he needs to be careful and not blow his wad in that first round trying to finish Alistar. Because like you said, Alistar being at Team Elevation, his cardio's there. You know, he's going to be able to go all 5 rounds, and I can't say the same for Sakai with his fat boy body.
Right,
you know?
and I don't even know if Sakai's been booked for 5 rounds before. I really have to check the details on the resume and stuff. But from what I've seen in the UFC, it's all 3-round fights, and Alistar can extend this one and maybe put it on him late.
So I think we're in agreement. We're going to take Overeem for the
for the win on Saturday.
And you don't think he has the ability to finish it? It being a 5-round fight, that's the only reason why I think that he'll get the finish. Where I think we'll start to see Sakai slow down if he doesn't get that KO early, and then we'll start to see Overeem kind of implement his game plan, even if it means taking Sakai down and just controlling him. And you know.
Yeah, it sucks, but I don't think Alistar finishes him. I think we see a pretty one-sided fight, especially on the feet. Maybe like the first round for Augusto Sakai. After that, I think Alistar's gonna point him for the win.
I'm with you on that. Well, actually, I'm taking Overeem within the distance, but really late.
Nice. What we always like to do, you got a fight on the card that you really like?
I sure do. It would be Alexander Romanov versus Rogerio de Lima. I've got Romanov by mauling. I think that he's going to go in there and just manhandle de Lima. Really excited about that fight, especially at the price tag.
Yeah. So my fight to watch for me, man, is going to be Thiago Moises and Jalin Turner. It's an exciting clash of some very young prospects, both only 25 years old. Both really can't get anything going in the UFC. It's a win, a loss, you know. But both of them are going to be here for a while, and I like this matchup here. It's a nice striker versus grappler, where the striker has such an advantage to play into his tool set with his range and his length, and then, you know, with the grappler, he's so much better of a grappler that if it gets to the mat, he's got the tools to get it done on the mat. It's a super good fight, one that I'm really interested in.
What about fighter to watch?
So my fighter to watch is actually, I'm going to steal it. It's Alexander Romanov, man. It's the 11-0 guy making his UFC debut. You know, not the best of competition on the regional scene, but the ceiling for him is high. I really like what I've seen from him. I like his aggression. I like his willingness to just clash with guys and to make a fun fight.
Right. Mine's going to be Michel Perreira.
Nice.
I need him to get a win here. I'd like to see him in the UFC. He's very exciting to watch, and he's a fighter that if he's fighting, I'm watching. So that being said, I'd really like for him to get off this losing streak, kind of capitalize on this, and get that Russian grappler out of here.
Nice.
We've got enough.
Yep. Is there anything else you want to touch on?
Oh, hey, we're doing a little giveaway.
Yeah.
To our first 100 subscribers, we have a signed Robbie Lawler versus Matt Brown fight poster that we're going to give away. We're going to do I guess like a draw of the hat type deal. Our first 100 subscribers. We've only got 46 now, so I mean, shoot, send your friends some text messages.
Tell the word.
Yeah, and then it's you and 99 other people, so you have a pretty good shot of winning a signed fight poster.
And then, as always, make sure to follow us, on Twitter. betmma.tips is where we're going to be tracked at as well. And
it's all the Early Weigh-In podcast.
Yep, all of it's at the Early Weigh-In podcast, and excited clash of heavyweights going down this Saturday, man. A lot of good fights as well that I don't think a lot of these see the judges on Saturday. It's only an 8-fight card, but it's these sleeper type of cards that we always see people perform in.
100%. I'm excited.
I am too, man.